Happy Feast of Dedication, Israel. Thank you all for joining us today. For everybody that joins our live Sabbath call every Friday night, this lesson, I told everybody we'd do this lesson today because there are a lot of new brothers and sisters in the faith that have never gotten the understanding of where we come up with the Feast of Dedication. So today won't be very long. We're going to run through these scriptures on Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication. The brother Shar Nathanya, the chief priest out of New York, was supposed to be on live with me today, but he was having some technical difficulties. He's going to try to get on a little later. Hopefully, he'll be able to. My name is Officer Abi Yeshaya. I'm out of the AOC Houston branch. And again, we're going to be running through the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah, and how we come up with the understanding for that. Shalom, Sister Marissa. Shalom to everybody. Jeremiah, Aliyah, Shalom, King. Brother Alfonso, Shalom. Who else we got here that's saying Shalom? Sister Shirai, Shalom, sis. I see Daughter of the Most High, Shalom. Karat Zayah, Shalom, sis. Yahawada, Shalom, brother. Again, we're going to go through the understanding of Feast of Dedication for the brothers and sisters that tune in on Friday. For anybody else out there that doesn't have a home or school to visit or anything like that, Friday nights every Friday night we have a Sabbath call. I'll put the information up here for brothers and sisters that would like to join us. It's every Friday night. We have a Sabbath call, and we just ask that, brothers and sisters come on in the spirit of respect. If you don't agree with something, it is what it is, just be respectful. That's all we ask. We're not here to demean one another or, for vain debates and vainglory. So, again, every Friday night, 412-729-2015, we have a Shabbat call for any brothers and sisters that would like to come congregate with AOC and, get the good word, as our brother Alfonso put. So without further ado, we'll get into our lesson today. Like I said, I just asked that everybody bear with me. The brother chief priest, Shar Nathanya, wasn't able to get on because he was having some technical difficulties. So I'll be today's teacher and reader. Hopefully, a little later, one of the soldiers out here in AOC Houston will join us and be my reader for today. So, hey, shalom. Thanks everybody for hopping on today. Brother Anthony out of the tribe of Issachar, Northern Kingdom in the house. Shalom, King. CB, shalom. I think I'm saying this right. Tafari, Benjamin, shalom. Sister Margarita, shalom, sis. So, when it comes to the Feast of Dedication, first of all, if y'all can hear me, just say Khan. I'm sorry. I'm just talking. I've been talking for a good 2 or 3 minutes. If I can be heard, just put Khan in the comment box. Or you can just say yes. If I could be heard, just put Khan in the comment box. Before I get started, if everybody can hear me, just say Khan. Thank you, Chauncey. Artemis Taylor. I'll answer your question like this. Just because you don't see a video of someone doesn't mean they're not teaching the word. We don't do this for vainglory. We do this in truth and sincerity to wake up our brothers and sisters, okay? So just because you may not see a brother on video teaching the word doesn't mean they're not teaching. Sometimes in this faith, this camera can be a big asset, but can also be a tool of destruction. And you can understand that some brothers don't always want to be in front of the camera, or they don't always want to be on camera. So just understand that, brothers are still pressing forward and teaching the word. They just don't always want to be on camera when they're doing it, because it's the eyes of the Most High in whom we're trying to please, and not the eyes of men. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to get started. Like I was saying, now that I know I can be heard. So many Israelites in the community, right? They don't deal with Hanukkah or the Feast of Dedication because there's a disconnect in understanding. Not here to bash anybody for their understanding, because we all learn at different paces. Just going to give the understanding about where we get the Feast of Dedication from. So if you all got your Bibles and your Apocryphas, 44th, Sister Taya, New York. So the brothers broadcasted via Facebook, where they'll be teaching that all the time. Again, if you'd ever like to join our Friday night call, you can ask that question and brothers will give you the answer to where they'll be teaching that. Sometimes the brothers like to teach when it's really cold. The brothers like to teach out there. We call it the Underground Railroad. It's at the Barclays, the subway area in the Barclays Center. Today, a lot of the brothers are in Cleveland with the brother Asha Shala. They're having a Feast of Dedication service out there. So if you're in the Cleveland, Ohio area, feel free to stop by. Again, we just ask that, brothers and sisters come in the spirit of respect and brotherly and sisterly love. So if you're in the Cleveland area, feel free to stop by. I don't have an address right now, but Shalom, Daniela, but brothers and sisters, it's plastered all over Facebook and stuff like that. If brothers would like to find out where that service would be at. So again, I'll open up the floor for questions when we get done. But right now we're going to run through this lesson so we can give this understanding on the Feast of Dedication. So again, like I was saying, there are a lot of brothers and sisters that don't really understand where we get Hanukkah from in the scriptures. We read Leviticus 23, and it gives us an outline of the majority of our high holy days and feast days. But as you read in the scriptures, and as Israel grew as a nation, there were other things that took place that called for us to commemorate things. The Day of Simon being one of those. When you deal with us in the Persian captivity, we get Purim from that. And the time of the rededication comes during the Greek captivity. Because if you guys will read in the Chronicles and in the Kings, when the temple was first constructed, King Solomon had a 7-day dedication to the temple. It was a 7-day feast that he held. Again, it wasn't a high holy day or anything. It was just a time of mirth and blessing. They were happy. Our forefathers were happy that the temple was constructed, so that we dedicated it with the feast. So we're going to go to the book of John, chapter 10, and verse 22. And it says, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus, Yahushua, walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So here we have the Christ, our King, honoring the Feast of Dedication. And that's kind of the springboard for, us honoring it ourselves, because we follow Yahushua. And if it's something that he did, then, us being followers of him, we're going to follow after him in his example. So now we're going to go to the book of Daniel chapter 8, and we're going to read verse 8. Now, when you deal with the book of Daniel, Daniel was given vast understanding of things that were to come, as far as empires. He saw the very first in the Assyro-Babylonian Empire, all the way to where we are now. Daniel was given that understanding. And so, like we try to tell our brothers and sisters that haven't come into the faith yet, the Bible is broken up into captivities. So by the time you deal with Yahushua and the disciples, they're going to be under the Roman captivity. But there's a whole captivity that's missing when you don't have the Apocrypha, and that's the Greek captivity. So when you read Daniel, the 7th and 8th chapter, again, he gives an outline of these various captivities. That is, well, not various captivities, I'm sorry, the various kingdoms that will arise on the earth and the empires that will come one after the next. So Daniel 8:8 says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So this he-goat that waxed great, when you read in the scriptures and when you read in the Apocrypha, you understand that this he-goat that it's talking about, and not only that, based off of Daniel and him giving us the outline of the kingdoms that are coming one after the next, and you line it up with history, you're going to get what kingdom comes after the next. So this he-goat we deal with is dealing with Alexander, the Greek freak. He's the he-goat. And he was the first one to truly fulfill his forefathers' blessing. When you read in the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verses 30 through 40, it outlines the blessing that was given to Esau. And it says, thy dwelling shall be the dew of the heaven above and the fatness of the earth, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So when you deal with Esau, he will live everywhere that it's rich. The dew falls everywhere. Fatness means riches. Esau would dwell everywhere where it's rich, and he would get these lands by conquering. That's what the sword is. It's a tool of conquering. So Esau would get these lands by conquering. And what's the modern day sword? The modern day sword is the gun. So this is how Esau gets these choice lands, by sword, by war, So Alexander the Greek freak was the first one to truly fulfill that, because he subdued all the dark nations on the earth. So back to Daniel 8:8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. And so those 4 notable ones will be his 4 generals. We have General Cassander, which was given Macedonia. General Lysimachus was given Thrace and Asia Minor. And General Seleucus was given Syria, and Ptolemy was given Egypt. Right? So let's go to the book of Daniel 8, verse 9, and it says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. So this little horn is dealing with General Seleucus. Out of General Seleucus came Antiochus Epiphanes. And he was really the one that really put the screws to Israel in their Greek captivity. When it says he extended toward the south, that's dealing with Egypt. He really extended his rule to these various locations. And they got a lot of that through infighting with each other. These generals and Alexander the Greek freak, the people that served him, a lot of them fought amongst themselves to get these different places. And when it says he extended his rule towards a pleasant land, well, that pleasant land, that's dealing with Jerusalem. That's dealing with our land, right? And so let's go to the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 1 really quick, just to kind of give the understanding, because the brother, our forefather Daniel, prophesied it. And then when you get to the Maccabees, a lot of this stuff was fulfilled. So let's go to the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 1. And it reads, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Again, that's that he-goat. Daniel prophesied it. It was fulfilled in the time of the Maccabees. And he made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Again, made many strongholds. He slew the kings of the earth. Again, that's that blessing that was given to Esau, to our forefather Esau, our brother Jacob, our forefather Jacob's twin brother. That was given to him. Okay, that blessing was given to him to conquer and go forth to conquer things. Verse 4: and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over the country, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died. And his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them. Many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Definitely. Because remember, the scripture says, when the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So this whole earth is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, the Israelites. They're all waiting for us, because right now the wicked bear rule. So the people are mourning. I mean, we don't really see it like that in Babylon, but other places in the earth, they having food shortages. The water's scarce. There's a lot of disease and a lot of pestilence. And guess what? Israel, that's coming to Babylon too. So we got to gird ourselves up, because right now, like the scripture says, when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Okay. Verse 7, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So let's go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 8, right? Verse 10, Daniel chapter 8, verse 10, it says, and he waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Right? The host of heaven is dealing with the Israelites. When you read Exodus 12 and 41, it tells you that he cast many of our forefathers to the ground. And he stamped on them by indoctrinating them and forcing them into the philosophies of the Greeks. That's how that was done. Let's read verse 11. It says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and it prospered. The host that was given to him was wicked Israelites. Our people, they transgressed the Most High, and they rebelled against the Most High, because like a lot of our people here in this captivity, they can't fathom following the Most High as opposed to following the ways of America. And we see it even to today. That's why us that are in this faith, we got to have that Maccabean spirit, and not that Maccabean spirit to go and try to, take things into our own hands and try to, take up arms against this man, because it's not going to work. But that Maccabean spirit to where we're going to push forward for the Most High in Christ. No matter what, we got to stand tall for them, right? Let's go to the first Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11, to show the fulfillment of that. This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11. And it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Again, that was a time of a Hellenistic culture. Our people became Hellenists willingly because they didn't, we didn't want to follow the Most High. Our people didn't have the heart. They were afraid. And so they allowed these wicked Greeks to, indoctrinate them and to cause them to stop following the Most High. Let's go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 8, and we'll read verse 13. It says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So they're asking, how long is this going to be? Because remember, they took our temple from us, and we're going to get that a little bit later on in the lesson and some of the things they tried to do in the temple and to the altar. So they're asking, how long will this be? Right? The transgression of desolation. I want to deal with that for a second. And we're going to read about that in First Maccabees chapter 1 and 37. Let me read that really quick to you all. Because there's a lot of, like, as you guys can see, when you deal with the book of Daniel and some of his prophecies, there's a lot of moving parts. So if I, by accident, skip a moving part and I see it and go back to it, I'm going to try to break it down to give the understanding of it. Because, again, like I said at the beginning, we have a lot of brothers and sisters that neglect to honor the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah, or rededication. They fail to honor it because the understanding is lacking. And again, it's not a bash session because iron sharpens iron. So, we're going to give our brothers and sisters that understanding, right? So verse 37, because again, Daniel 8 and 13 says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? Excuse me. So this is what it's dealing with. First Maccabees 1 and 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. This is, I always try to relate this to gentrification, right? There was this show I watched with Tracy Morgan. I forget the name of it. It escapes me right now, but it was Tracy Morgan and Tiffany Haddish, I believe. And so Tracy Morgan, of course, he was born in Brooklyn. He was a hustler in Brooklyn. And one night he ended up going to prison. And so he goes to prison or whatever. And it's like, a couple decades later, maybe 15, 20 years later, he gets out of prison. And he comes back to Brooklyn. And guess what he sees in Brooklyn? He sees Edomites all over Brooklyn just doing whatever. Skateboarding, you know what I'm saying? I think one of them was just walking through eating a bagel. And it's like, yo, this is Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? This is the hardcore areas of Brooklyn. And so, like the scripture says, it said that the city was made an habitation of strangers and became strange to those that were born in her. and her own children left her. So again, when you see different gentrification going on in these different neighborhoods, when the people that were born there, when they come back, they like, what is this? Esau just walking up and down our neighborhood like this, white folks just walking up and down, like that's what's is sweet like that now. So that's what was going on in Jerusalem. It was strange to the people that were born there to see strangers just there, just in our land like that. And it says, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was, verse 39, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was torn into mourning. So that's dealing with that transgression of desolation. Jerusalem was made desolate by way of these transgressions. A lot of our people fled, and a lot of our people decided to, follow the customs of the Greeks. So let's go back to Daniel 8. I'm going to read 13 and 14 again, because remember in verse 13, a question was asked and it said, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? Verse 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So he said 2,300 days, right? 2,300 days. This is the account of that abomination of desolation or transgression of desolation. And that was approximately 171 BC to 165 BC. Then the temple will be cleansed. That's where we get Feast of Dedication from. So, Joey. So this prophecy picks back up in the book of Daniel, chapter 11. So let's get there really quick. Again, this class is a skeleton class to give the understanding of the Feast of Dedication. The brother Pawar, thank you, Yediah. You got my back always, brother. The Last OG. That's the name of the show that Tracy Morgan was in. When he get out of prison, he come back to Brooklyn, and it's just like he looking around like, man, what the hell is this? This ain't Brooklyn. This look like Soho. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I appreciate that, brother Yediah. Soldier Yediah out of New York. So again, like I was saying, this class is, we're not going deep into the book of the Maccabees. We hitting certain points to give the understanding of Hanukkah. This is an 8-day feast. What brothers and sisters should do, they should read the book of Daniel chapter 8 and Daniel chapter 11, and then read 1st and 2nd Maccabees, so that you can familiarize yourself with these different events that went on. Because just like the books of the Chronicles go a little bit more in depth off of 1st and 2nd Kings, 2nd Maccabees goes a little bit more in depth based off of 1st Maccabees. And then you even have a 3rd and a 4th Maccabees, okay? So during this 8-day period, it'll be important that you read this information, get this understanding. Find some Israelites that are doing classes on it and hop on those classes to continue to get more understanding on it. Read it to your children, like I said, study this stuff, man. Don't just let it collect dust, because somebody may come to you and ask you about it, and you may have to, expound and give a little understanding on the Feast of Dedication. So we're going to Daniel 11 now, and we're going to pick up at verse 31. Again, this won't be a very long lesson. The brother Pawar last night went into some things about it, and today I'm just giving the understanding, some key points to the brothers and sisters that was on the class last night. So, Khan Aliyah, I will be able to, King. This is Daniel chapter 11, and And we're going to start at verse 31. Verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Right? So, all the power would be with Antiochus or Antiochus and the Greeks at this time. And they polluted the Most High sanctuary. And they made an end of the laws. You know, people weren't able to keep the law anymore, or that would bring death. That it would bring death if you tried to keep the laws of the Most High. And so not only did they do that, but they sacrificed pigs on the altar, man. That abominable pig, they were sacrificing that on our altar. That's the abomination, sacrificing the pigs. And so the people that, you know, that loved the Most High, they fled. You know, they fled. You know, they felt like they didn't have any other choice. You know, that's why I say we got to have a Maccabean spirit. Because for us in this faith, the ball's in our court right now. And we got to understand that. You know what I'm saying? The ball is in our court. The prophets of old, they're not here. The disciples and the apostles, they're not here. It's us now. We carry in the flame for our faith and our culture. And we're trying to do our best and our damnedest to take it back. The ball is in our court. We got to have that Maccabean spirit. Again, not carnally, but spiritually. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We got power on our side. We don't understand that, but we do. You know, I always say a lot of our brothers and sisters, we have not so learned Christ. Myself included, I'm still learning him and still trying to draw that power that he gave us before he left, because he gave it to us. The power to move those mountains. So we got to be in that Maccabean spirit, lest we fall. Least this devil overtake us, right? So verse 32, 11 and 32, it says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. So again, when we read First Maccabees 1 and 11, wicked Israelites followed the heathen. They followed the heathen. However, the people that know their power will do exploits. Because let's deal with what they followed. Okay, they neglected to keep God's laws, and here's why. Here's what they did. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. And for the king has sent messengers. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beast. Man, these wicked devils, man, no respect. And our people didn't even have enough respect for themselves or their heavenly Father to try to to fight against that. They just willingly did it, right? Verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land and drove the Israelites in secret places, even whithersoever they could flee for succor. So, again, they made Jerusalem desolate by these things because our people were fleeing different places where they could just get some type of help or shelter because they was afraid of this edict that went down. You know what I'm saying? So our people, the wicked Israelites followed, and the Israelites that felt like they couldn't fight back, they fled, right? And when you read in Second Maccabees chapter 4, it talks about the Olympics, and it talks about how our priests, they didn't even want to serve at the altar. They wanted to play discus. How it looked, you know what I'm saying? It's we having something, something falls on a Sunday, the same day as the damn Super Bowl, and you got brothers who liken themselves to priests. They want to go watch the Super Bowl instead. You know what I'm saying? It's March Madness, but instead of keeping the Shabbat, you want to go out and watch, the basketball game. It's the Sabbath day, but, you're dealing with the sports. And I'm not saying that sports is a sin. I'm just saying that, again, Israel, the ball is in our court, and we got to be those examples to our people, okay? Like the Maccabees were the examples for the people during that Greek captivity. Well, guess what? We under the same family. The Greeks are Edomites just like the Americans are, and we got to be that example to our people. Let's go back to the book of Daniel. So remember, it told us 2,300 days. So at this time, it was it says it was. I'm back in Maccabees, verse 50, First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 54. It says, "Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the city of Judah on every side." Right. So again, you guys read that in your own time and see these different wicked things they were doing, but that's the abomination of desolation. You understand? That's what happened. They set up that pig, that abomination on the altar, and because of their wicked laws, trying to get us to follow their law and transgress our laws, it made Israel desolate. Right. Back in Daniel, chapter 11, verse 32. And it says, "And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits." Right? So we're gonna read Second Maccabees chapter 19 and verse 30, because it said the people that do know their God, their power, shall do exploits. So let's go to Second Maccabees, chapter not Second Maccabees. Let's go Second Maccabees chapter 19. First Maccabees chapter 19, and we're gonna read verse 30. Let's deal with some of these exploits really quick. Again, like I said, brothers and sisters, just bear with me. There's a lot of moving parts to this. And so I'm trying to hit some of the key points for you all to give that understanding. First Maccabees 19. First Maccabees chapter 2. Can't even read my own notes. Verse 19. First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 19. It says, "Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice through all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him. Let me read up one. I'm sorry. I'm going to read at verse 18 to see why he yelled with a loud voice. Verse 17, let me start there. Then answered the king's officer and said to Mattathias, on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. So he tried to be like, yo, if you just do this, you and your sons, y'all will be friends with the king. Y'all don't want to be the king's friend? Come on, just do it. Just follow the king's command like the rest of the heathens, and y'all will be counted as friends to the king, right? Thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left hand. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came out of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Molding, according to the king's commandment. So after Mattathias spoke these words, an Israelite came to sacrifice according to the king's commandment, right? And so let's see what happened. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Man, the spirit got on that brother, man. That's the spirit. The spirit overtook that brother, man, and he was inflamed. And so he slew him. Also, the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he polluted. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High, like as Phinehas and Zambri, the son of Salom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Right? So this is where Daniel 11 talks about and many, but the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. Because these brothers know their power, man. They kept the law and they wasn't going to forsake it. And because of that, the Most High put the spirit on that brother to kill not only that wicked Israelite that was following the king's commandment, but also the king's officer that was compelling brothers and sisters to do that. So let's go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 33. And when you read and when you deal with this time period, the Maccabees, man, they were sacrificing children. They recovered, the books of the law that was at the hands of the Greeks. They did a lot of things, man. Because some of our people were so into Hellenist culture. When you deal with the word gymnasium, it means to exercise naked. And go out. And our people would go to these gymnasiums to exercise with the Greeks. And so that they could fit in, they went through a process to recircumcise themselves. Just wicked madness. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of things that was going on during this time period, man. And our people that consented unto these devils, man, were wicked as hell. Okay? Let's go back to Daniel. I'm going to start at Daniel chapter 11. verse. Hold on for a second. Let me see something. My notes I put. Yeah, let me read something else really quick. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to I'm gonna pick back up at First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 29, and I'm gonna read to verse 30. Then I'm gonna read some other stuff I have in my notes. Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. So here we go, right? So you have Mattathias and his sons, and because of the example they showed at that moment and standing for the Most High and going to the wilderness, because they decided they're gonna stand strong, it gave our other people the spirit to stand strong also. Because the ones that probably couldn't do it themselves, that maybe weren't the leaders, but would be willing to follow after righteousness, they saw that example and they went after justice. So they went with the Maccabees. So again, Israel, we either gonna be that righteous example for our people, or we're gonna be that wicked example. The choice stands with us. You know, the brother said that he won't go to the right hand or to the left. He going straight. You understand? And when you deal with that right hand and that left, when you read in 2nd Ezra chapter 7, on the right hand is a deep water, and on the left hand is a fire, a consuming fire. And to keep straight is a narrow passage to a city that's hid on a hill full of good things, and that's our kingdom. So we don't got time to fall to the left or to the right. We got to keep pressing forward, pressing after the mark, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. We got to press towards that mark, okay? I was just telling the brother, man, right now they're doing a lot of things to try to take this from us. Don't be beguiled and robbed of your reward because you're afraid or you're scared because they putting things out in the media about us, okay? Don't be robbed of your reward because they're going to try everything they can because they know their time is short. They're going to do everything they can. And they're not coming just after One West Israelites or Camp Israelites. Guess what? That brother that's riding solo by himself, they coming after him too. The friendly neighborhood Israelite that say he loved the nations and the nations are equal to Israel in the kingdom, they coming after them too. We in this together, all of us. So we got to stand strong again in that Maccabean spirit and press towards the mark. Verse 30, it says, but they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. So because of these afflictions, the people that wanted justice, they ran to the Maccabees. Verse 31. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to jump to verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntary devoted unto the law. So Assyrians are like zealots, okay? Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them and were a stay to them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So again, the people that wanted justice, they came to the Maccabees. But the brothers and sisters that were wicked, they ran to the heathen. You know what I'm saying? The brothers and sisters that wanted to forsake the law because to follow the Most High was too much of an inconvenience for them at the time, they fled to the heathen. Just like some of these brothers and sisters in Israel today, fleeing to the heathen. A brother or sister will say, oh, it's that doctrine they teaching. That's why you got rogue people going out killing people. Really? But yet you got Edomite cops that'll shoot us down in the street. You don't hear nothing from them Israelites. You see injustice happening to our people every day. But these same wicked Israelites that point the fingers at their brothers and sisters, they won't say a thing. That's called hypocrisy. verse 44. No, verse 45. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So the Most High, you know, he put the spirit on those brothers to prosper, man. And that's who's gonna fight for us. He's gonna give us that spirit to prosper. As you can see, that was circumcising children that weren't circumcised. They pulling down altars, kicking them over. They taking it back. The scripture says the children of Israel shall take the kingdom. It ain't gonna be given to us. We're gonna have to take that thing. Okay. Let's go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 33. Johan Rosario, I'll get with you on that, man. We don't deal with it's about that spirit, man. You know what I'm saying? Israel's a speckled bird. You know what I'm saying? Israel's a speckled bird. This is Daniel 11, verse 33. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. Verse 34. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. So again, Mattathias ended up dying. Mattathias ended up dying, but it says we shall be hoping with a little help. And here comes Judah, or Judas Maccabee, meaning the hammer. This is who we were hoping with a little help from. Because Judas, they called him the hammer because his blows in war, you know, when he swung his weapon, it was like a hammer coming to you, man. You know what I'm saying? So the Most High used him to cleanse our temple. We're going to read Daniel 11 and 35, and it says, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for an appointed time. So Judah, he ended up falling. He ended up dying. He fell in battle, and each of his brothers fell. But here's the thing. When Judah fell, one of his brothers rose, okay? And when one of his brothers fell, they would just rise up. It was, okay, I'm going to take point now. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take point. And so that's how brothers have to be, man. We have to be strong. We have to train ourselves for that. You know what I'm saying? Because many of you ask about the general, right? Well, guess what? He followed this example. You know, he want brothers to be strong and be valiant. So when you don't see his face, you see other brothers, because he's training brothers to be strong and be valiant. Like you see him out there with that spirit, with that Maccabean spirit. When you see him out there like that, brothers is taking that example up and following that example. Because just like the Maccabees, when a brother fell, or when a brother wasn't there, another brother picked up. He picked the mantle up and he went forward and pressed the people forward. You know what I'm saying? To new progress. Right? So let's go back to let's read Daniel 11 and 36. Verse 36. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. You know, King Antiochus, he did according to his will, you know, and he exalted and magnified himself above everything, you know, and above every god. He took the name God manifest on earth, you know. So again, even to the highest, he tried to exalt himself among our power, the Most High God. So let's go to Second Maccabees. No, let's go to First Maccabees chapter 4. We're going to read some of what happened in this battle. Okay, I'm gonna jump around a lot, so just bear with me. Verse 1, First Maccabees 4:1. Then Gorgas, 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out. Then took Gorgas 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guide. Now, when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emas, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. In the mean season came Gorgas. The mean season is dealing with the winter. That's the mean. When you're in Jerusalem, man, the wintertime is real mean. It's real cold and rigid. So in the mean season came Gorgias by night unto the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For said he, these fellows flee from us. Again, the pride of Esau. It can't be possibly because they have a trap laid for you. It's because they fleeing from you because they're afraid of you, right? But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and can pass round about with horsemen. And these were expert of war. These men were experts in war, right? Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not the multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. That's where your mind got to be, Israel. We got to have that type of mind with us to understand. Don't fear those type of things. Don't fear those imaginations against us, because we have a power that's going to fight for us, even unto death, man. When we see things that seem like it's too big and too hard for us to conquer, guess what? That's when we should be at our strongest. Because guess what? If it's too big and too hard for us to conquer, we have a power in heaven that'll fight for us. That's why it's important to be on the right side of this thing. That's why it's important not to be like the wicked men that fled and followed after the heathen. That's why it's important to follow our law and have our faith in the Christ. Okay. Where was I at? Verse, he said, okay, verse 8. Verse 9. Remember now our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now, therefore, let us cry unto heaven, and peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us and will remember the covenant of our fathers and destroy this host before our face this day. So again, that's what you do. You cry unto heaven. You make your prayers known to the God of gods, the Most High, Yahweh. Make your prayers known unto him. Cry unto him in the day of affliction. Cry unto him all the time, especially in this captivity. And he'll remove the mountain. He'll remove the host. Verse 11. That so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle. But they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. So when it says discomfited, we put them to task, man. You know what I'm saying? We put them to flight. Like, They couldn't do anything with us. We laid a perfect trap for them. Verse 15, howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them unto Gazaria and unto the plains of Idumea and Azotus and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon a 3,000 men. So our forefathers killed 3,000 men in that day, right? This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. So that he telling me, look, don't be greedy with the spoils. There's still a battle to be had here. You know, it's not finished. So don't be greedy with the spoils. Take a little bit of something and let's keep it moving. And Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them. And after this, ye may boldly take the spoil. So he like, look, this, Gorgias is still here with his army. We're going to overtake them. And if you do that, you can take as much spoil as you want. Verse 19, as Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. So they saw him, and they saw him lighting up the tents and setting them on fire. So they knew, oh man, he got us. You know, Judas got us. They lighten, they setting the camp on fire. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers. Only the Most High can put the spirit on you to have your enemies flee like that. What the scriptures say, the wicked flee when no man pursue them. They were standing in the plains, ready to go. At the sight of Judas and his army, the righteous men, the enemy fled, the wicked fled. Verse 23. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving, and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. Hallelujah. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded. He was confounded and discouraged, because neither such thing as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. He was confounded because everything he thought he was going to do to Israel didn't happen. And what he thought, and it says, as he were done unto Israel, nor such thing as the king commanded him come to pass. So what the king told him to do, none of it came to pass. They probably had wicked imaginations in their minds of the things they were going to do to Judas and his army once they beat him, because they prideful like that. You know, in our book, in our Bible, it even tells us, look, don't boast so much that you talk about what you're going to do tomorrow, because you don't know if tomorrow's coming. You ought to say Lord's will or Most High willing. These heathens don't know that, though. So they wallow in their pride. So he's like, yo, excuse me. He's so confounded because he like, damn, what I thought was going to happen didn't happen. What the king wanted me to do, it didn't go down like that. And guess what? I'm looking at all you heathens out there that come up to the camps and you try to confound the brothers with this word. And in your mind, you think you got that perfect precept that you're going to bring unto us to try to cut us. Guess what? You leave confounded because of that damn pride you got. Just like in New Jersey, when they sought to blame it on the children of Israel, their tongues fell upon themselves. They telling themselves all the time. They confounded. The Most High got them in derision, like the scriptures say. He laughing at them. So again, while we dealing with the book of the Maccabees, it's important to be in that Maccabean spirit because the Most High is going to fight for you. When you at your weakest, you at your strongest. When it's a task laid before you that you can't take on, rejoice, because your heavenly Father is there and he'll fight for you. By Hashem HaMashiach Yahushai, in the name of Christ, Yahushai. Verse, where we at? Okay, verse 28. The next year, therefore, following, Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen that he might subdue them. So they came unto Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethshura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers unto the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. See, here's the thing. When you praying to the Most High, look, you got to remind the Most High of his majesty sometimes. Remind him of his promises that he promised unto our forefathers. You know, the Most High wants that glory and that honor, man. Pray to him these things. Judah is telling him, look, you did all these things by the hand of King David. Earlier he talked about how the Most High got us through the Red Sea. He reminded the Most High of his majesty and his glory. And when the Most High, Most High love to hear that. Where we at? Verse 31. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went unto Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again unto Judea. So what he did, he saw that our forefathers were so valiant that we were either going to die valiantly, or we were going to put him to task. He left to get more soldiers, right? Verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up unto Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, all the priests' chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads. Because here it is. They went up, right? They went to Mount Zion, and when they got to the temple, it looked bad, it looked terrible. You had the scripture says they saw what was it? They saw shrubs growing in the courts, like the court wasn't being maintained. It was like it looked like a forest in there. Nobody had been there in so long that it was that desolate, right? And it says the gates were burned up, the altars were profaned, the sanctuary was desolate, the priest chambers were pulled down. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see something like this, we got to put ourselves in their shoes to understand how saddening that was to see. So they rent their clothes and they put ashes on their face. They were mourning, right? Verse 40, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when, verse 44, and when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which were profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid upon the stones in the mountains of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple and hallowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had done. So they cleansed in the temple, right? Verse 52. Now, on the 5th and 20th day of the month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs, citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days from the 25th day of the month Caslu with mirth and gladness. At that time also they builded upon the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set their garrison to keep it and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Idumea meaning is a Greek word for Edom. So, brothers and sisters, that's the dedication, the cleansing of the temple, the valiant acts by our forefathers. Again, read the 1st and 2nd Maccabees, even 3rd and 4th Maccabees. You can find 3rd and 4th Maccabees in the Septuagint. I'm not sure if they're standalone books like the Red Apocryphal, but you can find that in the Septuagint. It just gives more and more understanding, because when you deal with the Hasmonean dynasty, it's a vast history. Can one of you brothers? There's a book up there. It's a black book, and it's called what is that book called, man? It's I forget the name of it, but it deals with let me grab it really quick. Bear with me, brothers and sisters. Give me 1 second. Huh? Yeah. The New Testament and Antiquity. Okay. Yeah, so this is a book I have, one of my gems. I'm going to show y'all. It's called The New Testament in Antiquity. You see this book here? If you got a chance, man, pick it up, read it. It gives more understanding about what was going on during the time before Christ. And it gives insight on how the time of the Maccabees, or they like to call the Middle Testament period, how that time, the time of the Greeks, shaped the time of Christ. Because again, I always say this, the letters of Paul can be so convoluted that if you haven't read the book of the Maccabees or have understanding of that Greek captivity, all it's going to do is confuse you. There's no Jew nor Greek. You see what I'm saying? And people don't understand that because they've not read the Greek captivity. When Paul's on the scene, it's a Greco-Roman empire, more so Roman. So why would he say there's no Jew and no Greek? And people think, oh, so only the Jews and the Greeks get salvation. No, those Greeks he's talking about are Hellenists. The people in First Maccabees 1 and 11. The ancestors of those people, coming back to the covenant. Okay. So again, I'm gonna show this name of this book again, and it's called The New Testament in Antiquity. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Again, every Friday night. If you'd like to hear from AOC, we have a Sabbath class at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Central. That number is right up here on the screen, 412-729-2015. I'll open the floor for a few questions. And then what I want brothers and sisters to do is go read 1st and 2nd Maccabees and enjoy the Feast of Dedication with your family and your loved ones here in Israel. It is my understanding that the Feast of Dedication is only to be commemorated as a memorial. It's not a high holy day. However, today is a high holy day, being that it's a Sabbath. But just enjoy this day with mirth, laughter, with your children. Teach them about this history. I know I have a 2-year-old son, and he loves to call himself Mufasa and Simba. But, today he going to be Judas Maccabeus, you know what I'm saying? Because he loves his word too. They love to hear the Bible stories. Don't neglect your children. Remember, we got to teach it to them because they're the next generation. Sister, no, there's not a code with that number. You just call that number and it plugs you into the class. There's no code. So again, I'm gonna open up the floor for any brothers and sisters that may have questions. And yeah, just type your questions in the comments, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. In the Septuagint. Yeah, it's in the Septuagint. Yeah, 3rd and 4th Maccabees, Septuagint. Rod, am I in Israel? Man, I'm in Houston. AOC Houston. AOC Houston. I'm not in Israel. No. Yeah, let me get that for you, Sister Marissa. I may have spoken out of turn. It may be a different, let me see. Hold on, bear with me 1 second. I'm gonna get that for you. I'm sorry. I believe it's Zealous Ones though. Syrians. Yes, they are zealous. Yes. It says a member of a sect characterized by its religious zeal and piety. So in this book that I have right here, sis, the New Testament in Antiquity, right? It talks about, see if I can find it really quick. It talks about 3 sects, S-E-C-T, that were in Jerusalem at the time. Let me get it. I'm gonna get those for you. Bear with me. Let me flip through here. Because based off the Hasmonean dynasty, these sects arose. Just bear with me, sis, as I get this for you. Basically, can't find the page right now, but there were three sects. There was the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Essenes, I believe. And then there was a fourth sect that arose in those times, and that fourth sect is dealing with the Zealots. So that's what you get. It's called the fourth sect philosophy. So the Assyrians will be a part of that sect, that fourth sect. So the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And then you have the fourth sect being the Zealots. Let me see if there's any other questions up here. Any other brothers and sisters have any questions? Mario. General Hashar is carrying the flame. That's where he's at. Carrying the flame. Pushing forth in his faith. Pressing towards the mark. But like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, the brothers are in Cleveland for the Feast of Dedication. If you got any of the brothers as friends on Facebook, I think they just started posting the location of the services today. If you're in the Cleveland, Ohio area, feel free to show up. We just ask that you show up in the spirit of humility and come in righteousness. We don't want any fighting and no, brothers like to debate and, something they don't agree with, then all of a sudden you got to debate a brother for 10 hours. That's not what's going on here. So, yeah. Yep. AOC Chicago, Shalom, Mark. Shalom. Come. Like, I forget the brother's name. Let me scroll up to ask a question about whether he's an Israelite. The brother Johan, he said, I can't find his question at the moment, but yeah, man, like the brother Yediah said, man, Puerto Ricans are from the tribe of Ephraim. So just because you may be on the lighter side doesn't mean anything. It is what it is. The Most High go by the seed. Look at Blake Griffin's son. By the time he get 18 years old, they don't think he's a little white boy. We know that's not true. Because Blake Griffin's father is a Haitian man. He's a son of Levi. So, just is what it is, man. Any other questions? Any other questions? If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section so we can deal with those before we shut down for the day. Again, brothers and sisters, if you have any questions, we still have the floor open for questions before we close out. Feel free to post your questions in the comment section. Yawasab, Shalom, King. Joseph L. Ephraimite, Yawasab. In Hebrew, Shalom, brother. Jermaine, you said questions on anything about the Bible. Yeah, it depends. More so about the lesson, but it depends on the question. We may answer it today. Yeah, Marissa, because remember, Marissa, they're defiled because the heathens sacrificing pigs and they were profaning it. So yeah, everything in there is defiled once they do that. Shauna Burrows, do I read the Sefer? I haven't yet. No, I haven't. But I'm sure some brothers amongst us that have. Yeah, that's what she asked about. Why do you ask, Sister Shauna? I mean, why do you ask, Sean? I'm sorry, I said Shauna. Salaki, I apologize. Sean, why do you ask?
She had asking questions about Maccabees. She had any questions? Get on. You ask me now. Yeah. That's
Yeah, Marissa, I finally found that page on page 63 in the book, The New Testament and Antiquity. It starts off talking about the Pharisees and their beginning. Then it deals with the Sadducees. Then it deals with the Essenes. Then as you read, it talks about a fourth sect that will arise, the Zealots, that fourth sect philosophy. So, yeah, the Assyrians will be a part of that. So, again, last call. If any brothers or sisters have any questions, post it in the comments. Let me scroll all the way back to the top. Oh yeah, Sean. The Septuagint does also. It has third and fourth Maccabees in it. So yeah. Also, I have history books that kind of show sources from third and fourth Maccabees. So that's the real reason I mentioned it.
You seen the question? So do you have any questions?
Yeah, what's up, Khan? The reason I was
about Maccabees.
I was on Ephraim because a brother that's a so-called Puerto Rican asked a question. So I was answering this question. I wasn't doing that to neglect the other Northern Kingdom tribes. I mean, so again, brothers and sisters, I'm going to post our information for Friday nights. If you guys would like to get on our Friday night call, our Friday night Sabbath call, I'm posting this info because this class that we did today was kind of an extension of the one we did last night. So, again, every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 412-729-2015.
I said, did I?
There's no password or code needed. You just call in.
I said, did I?
And, we just ask again, as always, that brothers and sisters come in the right spirit. So with that, if there are no more questions, I'm going to say shalom. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You're going to see a lot more of this, live streams like this from AOC. And for some of y'all that are asking, who knows, you might see the general up here doing something one day. You never know. Because a lot of y'all was asking. But yeah, you brothers go out, man. Brothers and sisters, read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. If you haven't, read 3rd and 4th Maccabees. Read about some of the history during the Hasmonean times. This history breeds, things like the Olympics and stuff like that. Before I go, let me read something out of before I go, I want to read something out of 2nd Maccabees chapter 4. This is going to be 2nd Maccabees chapter 4, and I'm going to start at verse. I'm going to jump around here. Verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onus, labored underhand to be high priest. When you read about Jason, he's a reproach to Israel, because he dealt with the Greeks. He was wicked, and he like the scripture said, he tried to labor underhandedly to be high priest, right? Verse 8, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set up a place of exercise, and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. So they wanted to be a part of the Olympics. And so he promised that he would name the Israelites Antiochians to be able to be a part of those different exercises. Just like now, you got LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and all them boys. They go by the name of Americans when they go to play, in the Olympics and stuff like that. It's no different. That's how it was here. They wrote them off as Antiochians to allow them be able to partake. I'm gonna get with you on that in a second, Sean. Verse 10, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten unto his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashions, and the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. Watch this. For he gladly built a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Now such was the height of Greek fashion and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priests had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, after the game of discus called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all, by reason whereof sore calamity came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. So again, that's just like, man, our brothers and sisters nowadays. You go to most colleges on American campuses, especially HBCUs, and you have all these Greeks there. And again, I'm not trying to bash our brothers and sisters, because people only understand what they understand. You know, we all reach understanding at different points. That's one thing we got to understand in this faith, you know. And it helps us become better fishermen knowing that. So I'm not trying to bash them. What I am saying is that they're dealing in Hellenistic culture. They are. And that culture goes back to this Greek captivity, back to our forefathers, right? So again, the books of the Maccabees, they full of a lot of great understanding and you know, different insight to what was going on at that time. Temple Guardian, Shalom. Sean, you said come to Springfield, Massachusetts, man. Email brothers, man. Email the information. You know, let us know what's going on, man. Maybe brothers could take a trip sometime. You know, especially the brothers out there on the East Coast. That's not too far for them. So, you know, if it's personal counsel, you know, I'll reach out, you know, we can talk about it. But, you know, if you looking for the ambassadors, you know what I'm saying, email the brothers, man. The brothers, you know, if it's in their power, you know, the brothers will come out there and do the works, man. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve the people, you know. So, but I can't give you my Mitri. I can't give you my my Dideum. That's what it's called. I can't get that to you, man. This was I got this at my I want to say my very first. No, I didn't have this at my very first Passover. I didn't, but still, you know, it's near and dear to me, man. It was the first one I got when I joined the ALC, so I can't give it to you. So again, if there are no more questions, man, I'm gonna go ahead and end. I wish you brothers and sisters much peace and prosperity, and manyfold blessings in the name of Yahweh Shai. Like I always say, man, double honors to the elders that rule well. Stephen, real quick, what part of Florida are you from? Because we got a brother that's actually in Florida and he's starting up out there. His name is Karatazai. If you can, send us an email. I'm gonna send out the email address. Our email address is Alpha Omega Clan AOC300@gmail.com. Send us an email, man. We got a brother out there. We got a brother out there in Florida, man, that's about to be starting up, man. So, you know, he's gonna start his, you know, his ministry out there. So, you know, if his brothers and sisters out there in his area, you know what I'm saying, that want to put their brick in, y'all can link up with the brother. But yeah, man, like I was saying, man, double honors to the elders that rule well, peace and prosperity to the true children of Israel. And we got next forever, even forever, and death and destruction to our enemies. Shalom.